Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to go on to chapter 8 and haven't had any other questions pop in before we go. So we're just going to go ahead and do the disclaimer and start right into reading the chapter. The Residue of Trauma, Chapter 8. Growing up without a stable compass, immature parenting. Quote, emotionally immature parents don't step back and think about how their behavior impacts others. There's no cringe factor for them, so they seldom apologize or experience regret. Lindsay Gibson. A child depends on their parents for guidance, stability, to build a foundation of self-efficacy. When parents are immature because of their own trauma or other reasons, they fail to provide the consistent support and modeling that a child needs to develop competence and independence. As adult children of immature parents can struggle to reconcile unmet needs while meeting the demands of adulthood, it creates a cycle of frustration that many do not understand. They feel misunderstood. Parents can be immature emotionally, mentally, behaviorally, or all of them. I am not blaming parents in this chapter. It is an exploration of ways immature parenting fosters learned helplessness, the unique challenges faced by those adult children of immature parents, and strategies for reclaiming agency and breaking free from learned helplessness. In general, immature parents are characterized by emotional instability, self-centeredness, or an inability to fulfill the responsibilities of caretaking effectively. Immaturity often manifests in such behaviors as emotional reactivity, overreacting to minor issues or failing to regulate their emotions when under stress is common. This creates an unpredictable environment at home, leaving the child feeling unsafe and unsupported. The child is overly focused on what appears to be a dangerous adult and therefore does not develop their own emotional awareness and expression of needs. Often a child can develop a hyper-awareness of their emotions, yet lack the ability to regulate them, which leaves them in a constant state of distress. Neglect of responsibilities. When parents prioritize their own needs consistently over their child's, this leads to neglect and an inconsistent caregiving. This leaves what I call the gap. The gap is a space where things could have happened but did not, and it leaves a void in a person. Examples would be hugs that didn't happen, words of affirmation that didn't happen, conversations that never happened. Especially if a child sees another reality in the lives of other children, they become painfully aware of what is missing. Parents that oscillate between over-involvement and then neglect create an uncertainty about whether any needs will be met, leading to confusion about when and how to act. Suffering inconsistencies can create either an internally focused child or an externally focused child, where the internally focused child will often internalize the belief that they are to blame for the bad things happening in life, and the externally focused child will believe it's everybody else's fault for the bad things that are happening in life. Of course, this is a very simplified version of the two popular coping mechanisms. Role reversal. Immature parents often see their children as little adults and not children in need of guidance and support. When adults treat children as peers, expecting the children to meet their emotional needs or practical needs, it blurs the boundaries of parent-child relationship. This can leave a child feeling powerless to get their needs met, or on the flip side, it develops into a child who feels they are all powerful and are not to be challenged. The parentification of a child can turn into codependency in an adult, often only feeling valuable if they are rescuing someone else. It feels rewarding to rescue another and like hard work to rescue oneself. Lack of skill building opportunities. When children are forced into a caretaking role prematurely, suppressing their own needs to manage their parents' emotions or responsibilities, a sense of learned helplessness begins to develop when children reach adulthood, as they feel unequipped to prioritize their own needs. Immature parents fail to teach problem solving, emotional regulation, decision-making skills, or even just basic life skills. I will often hear an individual express how hard it is to be an adult. Some children master lots of skills and often appear to be doing well in life, yet they have an emptiness inside. Unrealistic expectations. Immature parents are often critical of their children, feeling burdened by the caretaking responsibilities. These parents maintain unrealistic expectations or may try to live vicariously through their children. Unrealistic expectations delivered in an unpredictable emotional environment is impossible for a child to navigate. Even if children complete the demanded goals, they are often met with indifference or hostility. Over time, the child internalizes the indifference and hostility. Then, as an adult, an individual can be confused as to why they are indifferent to meeting their own needs, or get angry when they must meet their own needs, or get angry when they need to meet the needs of another. Realizing that these negative reactions can come up as you improve your own self-care, self-generated actions. These are not yours. They are internalized emotions of the old experiences coming up to lead. These emotional reactions were absorbed or internalized from the environment as a child. Understanding this can help eliminate the resistance to self-care and to understand where all of the negative self-talk comes from. Some individuals that are not interested in having children were simply exhausted early in life by immature parenting. This isn't the only reason. Individuals decide for various reasons not to have children. I'm just shining light on the topic for those that wonder why at a deep level they have no interest in parenting. You made it this far, time to celebrate. Happy dance. It takes dedication and effort to stick to your game plan in life. I understand this isn't a book that is a one-time read and poof, life is fixed. It can be triggering or unsettling as each chapter is digested and to acknowledge that things might have been rough for you. It is possible to reparent and move beyond these limitations. Understanding the origins of learned helplessness is a huge step towards change. The first steps in reparenting are finding resources for integration, guidance, and praise that wasn't received as a child. Offering self-compassion to counteract the inner critic developed during childhood. Establishing boundaries to protect emotional well-being is a must. Next, developing daily habits of self-care is necessary. Adult children of immature parents that were raised in chaos often resist structure. Yet a certain amount of structure provides predictability and a consistent plan for success. Developing good eating habits, good sleep habits, staying hydrated, and regular positive socialization are goals to consistently work towards. Individuals that suffer from learned helplessness often feel guilty or worry when life starts to feel good. In time, learning to trust the inner intuition we all have will develop on the path to self-empowerment. It is a gradual process requiring patience and self-awareness. It is important to focus on progress rather than perfection. Realizing the future does not have to be determined by one's past. As new skills are developed, it is easier to embrace more challenging roles and foster resilience. Having the power to reparent oneself by nurturing independence and reclaiming what life has to offer can be a positive adventure. While the process seems challenging at first, each step forward is a testament to resilience and the capacity for growth, providing that learned helplessness is not a permanent state. This is the end of chapter 8. And as usual, we're going to go through the quick just questions for those of you who want to bring into your active experience without filling out the worksheet. Or even if you want to fill out the worksheet, it's great. Okay, so our first question is, how are we feeling? Was there anything triggered or activated that we're sensing or experiencing? And then you can jot down or just think about, how did your parents regulate their emotions? How did you witness them regulating their emotions, and how did that make you feel? And if you need to pause this video so you can write this down or to really feel into each question, you can do that too before we move on to the audio. How did you feel burdened or frustrated as a child? For me, I noticed I had a lot of frustration because a lot of the questions that I had for the adults around me, they were unable to answer. That left me very frustrated. The next question is, who or what dysregulates you emotionally? And we can get more into like energetic enmeshment, because I notice when others are trying to enmesh with me, like kind of, it feels to me almost like they're invading my energy field, especially through that solar plexus area. That can feel a little dysregulating to me. And we can get more into that if that's something that you want to work with, whether someone's trying to enmesh with you or if you have a tendency of kind of enmeshing with others. It's kind of like a coping mechanism. And then the next one is, what do you feel you missed in your childhood? And again, focusing on your body, taking a few deep breaths. I'm going to shut the video off and we will go into chapter 8. Hi, this is Gina. And we're going to move on to chapter 8. So go ahead and you can pick an item that you want to work on from chapter 8. The first thing we're going to do, take a few breaths, close your eyes, and focus in on how are you feeling? How does your body feel? How does your emotions feel? Jot that down on your journal tracker. And if you didn't download your journal audio tracker, you can just write it down on a blank piece of paper. And in relation to this topic, what are you doing that's working? Take a few moments to write that down. Because when we can acknowledge that what we're doing is working for us, it anchors in our nervous system and it lets our brain know we need to be doing more of this. You can pause the audio if you need more time to write it down. And then also in relation to this topic, what do you want to create? What are new emotions you want to feel? What are new ideas you want to have? And write that down. And as we move into the magnetic mind session, I ask permission to work with your super consciousness. Take a few breaths, close your eyes, bring your attention inward. And how did your parents regulate their emotions, and how did that make you feel? The superconsciousness, take and treat all of this that has been brought into the active experience with a massive history change and everything after that. The superconsciousness, please treat the neural network of the basic neural structure, adding and subtracting, from the visual system, the auditory system, to increase the effectiveness of this session. And when ready, do a massive history change and everything after that. Again, focusing on how did your parents regulate their emotion? What did you see them doing? What did you hear them doing? What did you hear them saying? Did they blame you for their emotions? Did you try to help regulate them? Did they blame others? Or were they accountable and responsible for their own emotions? It's super consciousness, everything that's been brought into the active experience. Please treat that with a massive history change and everything after that. Continue focusing on what was your experience with other people and their emotions. What was your experience of yourself when you were around others who were experiencing emotions? The superconsciousness, please treat everything that has come up into the active experience, tagging and treating it with a massive history change and everything after that. Treating all fragile parts, and treating all parts that are ready for treatment with a massive history change and everything after that. Moving on to the next question. How did you feel burdened or frustrated as a child? Were you expected to function higher than you could? Were you expected to be a little adult? Just focus on those frustrations, those areas that felt too much. And super consciousness, take and treat all of this with a massive history change and everything after that. Treating all parts, treating all dispositions. Do a association, disassociation process on this. Bringing in the elements of comfort. Again, treating all fragile parts, wrapping them in a warm blanket, helping them find their opposites to neutralize this experience. And bring in positive emotions, positive feelings, and positive coping mechanisms. And when ready, do a massive history change and everything after that. Breathing and noticing. And just allow those sensations. When you were frustrated as a child, what sensation did you have in your body? Some people it's a hot face. Some people it's clenched fists. Super consciousness, treat these sensations and treat all judgments to and with these sensations of the body. And when ready, do a massive history change and everything after that. Again, just leaning into what were those things that frustrated you as a child? Or maybe they just frustrate you in life. Allow that feeling of frustration to come into your active experience. You don't have to re-experience the event or the situation. We're just looking at the emotion of it. And super consciousness, as they bring this into their active experience, again, treat it all with a massive history change and everything after that. Treating all emotions, all feelings, all body systems. Treating the brainstem. And again, treating the auditory processing system, the emotional processing system, and bring into harmony the limbic brain with a massive history change and everything after that. Breathing and noticing. And as we move on to the next question, who or what dysregulates you emotionally? Who or what just sends you off the rails? And super consciousness, as that comes into the active experience, take and treat all of that with a massive history change and everything after that. Treat all racing thoughts. Treat the adrenaline response. And treat the response of just kind of blanking out. Treating all anger. And treating all places and areas where they feel disrespected, devalued, unseen, unheard. Treating all shutdown responses. Treating all fight or flight. Treating the freeze response. And treating the fawn response. When ready, do a massive history change and everything after that. In super consciousness, we want to look at matrices. Find all of the fragmented matrices in relation to this topic and to who or what dysregulates us, and treat that with a massive history change and everything after that. Treating the complex structure, treating the nervous system, also treating the skin, the myelin sheath, blood supply, nerve supply, treating the periosteum, the storage system of the bone, treating all chakras, and treating any places where the bone has locked into place because of this reaction. Clenching of the teeth, locking of the knees, treat it all with a massive history change and everything after that. Taking a deep breath and super consciousness, anything that could not be processed at that time, please allow the body to process it, strengthening the diaphragm to colon connection so it can just be washed out of the system. And when ready, do a massive history change and everything after that. Taking a deep breath, letting that process for a bit. And super consciousness, anything that's left around who or what dysregulates us. Continue to treat that with a massive history change and everything after that. Treating all layers of consciousness. And treat any misunderstandings. Treat any broken promises. Treat any contracts. Any cords or connections that were non-beneficial. Treat that with a massive history change and everything after that. And reinforce the connection to self. Reinforce the connection to their emotions. And reinforce self-acceptance. And as we move on to our next question, what do you feel you missed in your childhood? Where are those areas you have FOMO, the fear of missing out? Does it look like other people are having more fun than you? Does it look like other people are more successful than you? What is it you are afraid you are missing out on? Bring that into your conscious experience. And how does that make you feel? Super conscious again, treat all memories, treat all events, all emotions and feelings, all fears of missing out, that somehow there's a gap, that somehow there's something wrong in this now moment. Treat that with a massive history change and everything after that. Taking a deep breath. The super consciousness, any place where we scramble, offering the metaphor to be like the Joneses. And again, treat any influence as a social media. Again, treating the fear of missing out, thinking you've lost something. You treat that with a massive history change and everything after that. Treating all parts, all predispositions, all beliefs. Again, treating all broken promises. Treating anywhere where they feel like they've failed, where they're not good enough, they're not fast enough, they can't figure it out. Any place they don't feel they have support, treat that with a massive history change and everything after that. Reinforcing self-support, self-compassion, holding all of it with a sense of love and understanding. Again, treating all parts that are ready for treatment. And when ready, they can integrate with the main identity. Once all trauma and pain has been removed, to increase satisfaction in life and decrease pain. When ready, they can integrate with the main identity. Sharing the main identity's memories. Again, running the body together smoothly without conflict. And take a deep breath in. In super consciousness, if we didn't treat anything from the last session till now, if it's safe and appropriate, please treat it now. And begin to do the closing procedure. Anchoring all of this in memories 1, 2, and 3, tandem memories, shadow memories, ego states, and anchoring it into the matrix of the universe. And super consciousness, between now and the next session, take anything that is disempowering and exchange it out for a more self-empowering emotion, feeling, memory, coping mechanism. And with your permission, we will close the session. And how was chapter 8 for you? Again, focusing on your body. How are you feeling after the session? If you refocus on some of the topics you picked, are they as intense? Maybe they kind of daisy chained into a different topic, something else. You may want to listen to the audio again. Or even to write down topics you want to use maybe in the next audio. And you sometimes need to take a break. People ask me, can you do too much of this work? And yes, I think you can. We can only really do as much integration as our nervous system will allow. So for those of you that are staying hydrated, the better sleep you can get, getting a little bit of exercise, the better we can keep our blood sugars regulated. All of that will allow us to do more integration work. So if you're not sleeping well, maybe you've got an aggressive work schedule, you may not want to be doing an audio every day. However, maybe you've got a week of vacation, maybe you might want to do an audio every day. And the big question is, how can you tell if you're doing too much too soon? You will know because it may be a little bit harder to sleep. You may find, I know for me, if I do too much, I have a tendency to get into a state of agitation as my body is re-regulating itself. Some people can have more cravings, or whatever your coping mechanism is, you may have a tendency to want to do more of that because your body's trying to regulate itself. So that's why I say more is not better of this kind of work. And of course, leave me a comment. Let me know how you're doing, what topics are coming up for you. Subscribe. Now, I will mention I only allow people who have subscribed to the channel to comment because this eliminates people who are not serious about doing the work and wanting to be part of my community or this group that I'm building. So I want to be able to limit who can comment on things because I really only want those who are interested in doing the work commenting and interacting and being able to use these resources. I mean, anybody can use it. It's going to be on YouTube, so anybody can use it. However, I only really want to be interacting with people who are serious about doing the work and need the support. And so be kind to yourself, eat well, sleep well, stay hydrated, and I will see you in chapter 9.